Kindness exposes insecurity. Your light makes some people uncomfortable. Think about that for a moment. Most of us are raised to believe that kindness is universally welcomed, that it will open doors, that it will always soften hearts. But in reality, kindness can have the opposite effect on certain people. When you walk into a room and choose to treat others with respect, when you genuinely offer warmth without any hidden agenda, it doesn't just make you look good, it highlights what others may lack. People who are carrying bitterness, envy, or unresolved wounds can feel that contrast deeply. Your kindness isn't just a gesture to them, it's a mirror. And not everyone is ready to see their reflection. When someone is insecure, they live in a world where every action around them is filtered through comparison. If you show patience, they feel exposed in their impatience. If you show generosity, they feel judged for their stinginess. If you smile easily, they wonder why joy doesn't come as naturally to them. Instead of being inspired by your example, they may resent it, because your presence reminds them of what they are not, or what they wish they could be, and resentment often disguises itself as hatred. It's almost paradoxical. The very thing you offer from a place of sincerity can become fuel for someone else's discomfort. They might start questioning your motives, convincing themselves that your kindness is fake, that you're only doing it to look good or gain something. They need to distort your intentions, because accepting your kindness at face value would force them to acknowledge their own shortcomings. And that's painful. It's easier to dismiss you than to confront themselves. Consider the workplace, for example. Imagine you consistently help others, share credit, or stay calm under pressure. Some colleagues might appreciate it, but others may start to think, why do they have to act so perfect? Your steady kindness puts pressure on their own behavior, even without you saying a word. It makes them feel smaller, lazier, or less disciplined. And instead of admiring you, they may grow irritated by you. They'll roll their eyes when you help. They'll gossip behind your back. They'll find reasons to dislike you not because of anything you've done wrong, but because you've touched a nerve they don't want touched. This isn't limited to work. It happens in families, friendships, even strangers on the street. Maybe you offer kindness to someone who is hurting, and instead of accepting it, they lash out. Why? Because kindness demands vulnerability. To receive your goodwill, they would have to soften, to open up, to trust. For people who carry deep insecurities or unhealed pain, that's terrifying. Rejecting your kindness, or even hating you for it, is safer than letting it in. What you need to understand is that your kindness is not neutral. It has weight. It carries energy, and energy changes the environment around it. Some people will feel lifted by your light. Others will feel burned. The discomfort they feel has nothing to do with whether you're genuine, and everything to do with what they see in themselves when you show up as you are. This is why being kind takes courage. It's not always met with open arms. Sometimes it's met with hostility, with suspicion, with outright disdain. Yet the discomfort it stirs in others is proof of its power. Your light doesn't just illuminate a room, it forces shadows to appear where people prefer them hidden. Not everyone wants kindness, some want control. This is a truth many people struggle to accept because it feels counterintuitive. We assume that if we show care, respect, and thoughtfulness, others will welcome it, but the world doesn't work like that. There are people who don't value kindness because it doesn't serve their agenda. What they want isn't your warmth or your compassion. They want to feel superior, to dominate, to keep the upper hand. To them, kindness is not a gift, it's a threat to their control. Think about relationships where power is the underlying currency. Some individuals thrive not on mutual respect, but on hierarchy. They need to feel above you, to know they can dictate the terms of engagement. When you respond to them with kindness, it unsettles the dynamic they're trying to maintain. Instead of playing their game of manipulation, you offer something real. And real scares people who rely on control. Because kindness is a form of freedom. It says, I don't need to dominate you to connect with you. That undermines the entire foundation of their strategy. This is why you'll see certain people dismiss or belittle kind gestures. They may roll their eyes at you, mock your sincerity, or question your motives. They need to turn your kindness into weakness, because admitting that it's genuine would mean acknowledging a type of strength they don't possess. Control thrives on keeping others off balance, uncertain and needy. But kindness steadies the ground. It calms the storm, and that calm is threatening to anyone who gains their power from chaos. In the workplace, for instance, a boss who rules through fear doesn't want kindness. Fear keeps people in line, keeps them quiet, keeps them producing. If you, as a leader or a colleague, introduce kindness into that environment, you risk loosening the grip of fear. People begin to feel valued. They begin to realize they have worth outside of intimidation. That shift threatens the one in control. Suddenly, their authority doesn't feel as absolute. So instead of embracing your kindness, they push back. They interpret your behavior as insubordination or weakness, anything to maintain their narrative of dominance. In personal relationships, this dynamic is even more intense. A partner who seeks control rather than connection will twist your kindness into an obligation. The more you give, the more they take, and if you ever stop, they accuse you of changing, of being cold, of not caring. Because to them, kindness isn't something to be cherished, it's leverage. They use it to tighten their grip, to demand more, to make you prove your loyalty. They don't want your compassion, they want your compliance. Even strangers can operate this way. You may offer a simple courtesy, holding a door, letting someone go ahead of you, and instead of gratitude, they respond with arrogance. Why? Because for them, dominance is more important than connection. They can't simply accept a kind act. They need to reframe it as if they deserved it, as if it was owed to them. That's how control works. It robs kindness of its beauty and turns it into a transaction they believe they're entitled to. The hard truth is that when you encounter people like this, no amount of kindness will soften them, because you're not speaking the same language. You're offering care, and they're seeking power, and when those two forces meet, friction is inevitable. They will reject, dismiss, or even hate your kindness, not because it's wrong, but because it refuses to play by their rules. And for people obsessed with control, there's nothing more threatening than someone who won't give them the dominance they crave. The more you give, the more some will resent you. This idea feels unfair, even cruel, because giving is supposed to bring people closer, not push them away. But human nature is complicated. For certain people, your generosity doesn't inspire gratitude. It sparks jealousy, suspicion, or entitlement. When you continually extend yourself, offering help, support, or compassion, some individuals begin to measure themselves against your actions. Instead of seeing your giving spirit as a blessing, they see it as a reminder of their own lack, and resentment grows quietly in the background. It often begins subtly. At first, people may accept your kindness with a smile, perhaps even genuine appreciation. But as time goes on, that gratitude may shift. They start to notice the contrast between what you give and what they give. They feel exposed, as though your generosity is unintentionally highlighting their selfishness or indifference. Instead of asking themselves why they can't give more, they take the easier route, resenting you for giving at all. It's not about your actions being wrong, it's about their insecurities being stirred. In some cases, resentment grows because your giving creates a sense of imbalance. When you're always the one extending the hand, always the one showing up, others can feel like they're falling behind. They may begin to interpret your generosity as superiority, even if that's not your intention. They tell themselves you're trying to outshine them, to make them look small, or to gain favor with others. Suddenly, your kindness becomes a weapon in their eyes, even though you never wielded it that way. This is the strange irony. The more selfless you are, the more some people assume selfish motives. Another layer to this is entitlement. The more you give, the more people start to expect it. What began as a kind gesture becomes an unspoken obligation. Instead of saying thank you, they begin to think, of course they'll do it. That's just who they are. And when entitlement replaces appreciation, resentment isn't far behind. Because if you ever slow down, if you ever stop giving at the same level, they feel cheated. They twist the story in their minds and decide you've changed, when in reality, it was their perspective that shifted. This dynamic is especially visible in close relationships. In families, one person often becomes the giver, the one who sacrifices time, energy, resources. At first, everyone is grateful, but over time, the giver's role becomes expected, even demanded. And rather than appreciation growing deeper, resentment brews both ways. The giver feels taken for granted, while the receivers feel irritated if the flow of generosity falters. The very acts of kindness that once built connection can, paradoxically, become the wedge that drives distance. The workplace tells a similar story. The more you help colleagues, the more they rely on you. But instead of admiration, some may harbor resentment. They may feel overshadowed, as though your competence and willingness make their efforts look smaller. Instead of celebrating your contributions, they find reasons to tear you down, gossip about you, or undermine you. Your generosity with time and energy makes them uncomfortable, not because you've done anything wrong, but because they feel diminished by comparison. What's important to recognize is that resentment in others isn't proof that you've given too much. It's proof that they haven't dealt with their own insecurities. They project their feelings onto you because it's easier than confronting themselves. Your giving spirit becomes the scapegoat for their lack of growth. And so the paradox continues. The more you give, the more certain people grow restless, defensive, and resentful, not because your kindness is flawed, but because it unsettles what they refuse to face within themselves. Their reaction reflects who they are, not who you are. This truth can be difficult to accept because we are conditioned to take other people's responses personally. When someone snaps at us, ignores our kindness, or treats us with hostility, our first instinct is to wonder what we did wrong. But the reality is that people's behavior toward you is a mirror of their own inner world. It's shaped by their experiences, their wounds, their insecurities, and their mindset. Your kindness doesn't guarantee kindness in return, because you can't control the lens through which someone else sees you. Imagine offering compassion to someone who has lived a life where trust was always broken. To you, it's a simple act of care. To them, it's suspicious. They might think, what do they want from me? Why are they being so nice? Their reaction has nothing to do with your sincerity and everything to do with their history. They are filtering your behavior through a story that existed long before you showed up. If their story is filled with betrayal, then even your purest intentions will be twisted to fit that narrative. It works the same way with anger or jealousy. A person who struggles with envy might see your kindness not as generosity, but as showing off. They may interpret your good deeds as a way of making them look small. Again, this has nothing to do with your heart and everything to do with their struggle. When people respond negatively to kindness, it's usually because your actions trigger something unresolved within them. Their bitterness, their insecurity, their pain, those are the forces driving their reaction. This is why two different people can experience the same gesture in completely opposite ways. You might compliment two coworkers on a job well done. One smiles and feels appreciated. The other glares, thinking you're patronizing them or trying to score points. Same words, same tone, completely different reaction. The difference lies not in you, but in them. Their perception is colored by their beliefs and emotions. What you offered is neutral. How they receive it is a reflection of their inner state. Taking on other people's reactions as your responsibility is a heavy burden, and it's one you were never meant to carry. You can't control how someone chooses to interpret you. You can't heal the parts of them that distort kindness into insult or generosity into manipulation. What you can control is your own integrity, your decision to act in alignment with your values, regardless of how others respond. Their reaction is their truth, not yours. Consider also that sometimes people project onto you what they can't admit about themselves. If they are harsh, they may accuse you of being fake. If they are selfish, they may call you manipulative. If they feel powerless, they may label you arrogant. Projection is a defense mechanism, and when you practice kindness, it often threatens the walls people have built to protect themselves. Instead of letting those walls crumble, they reinforce them by lashing out. Their behavior is a shield, not a verdict on your character. This perspective doesn't mean you stop caring how you affect others. It simply means you understand the limits of your responsibility. You can approach people with empathy and respect, but you can't force them to see you clearly. Their reactions are their stories playing out in real time. Whether they respond with gratitude or hostility, it's a reflection of who they are and where they are in their journey. It's not a reflection of your worth, your sincerity, or your intentions. Kindness without strength becomes self-sacrifice. This is one of the hardest lessons to learn because we're often taught that kindness is about always giving, always accommodating, always putting others first. But when kindness lacks boundaries, when it isn't backed by strength, it stops being kindness and starts becoming a form of self-erasure. You give until you're depleted, and the people around you begin to expect it as normal. Instead of appreciating your efforts, they come to rely on them, sometimes even demanding them, and you find yourself pouring out without ever being poured back into. Strength in kindness doesn't mean being harsh or unfeeling. It means having the courage to say no when no is necessary. It means recognizing that your time, your energy, your peace all have value, and giving them away endlessly doesn't make you noble. It makes you vulnerable to being drained. A person with true strength knows that kindness must be intentional, not automatic. It's a choice, not a compulsion. Without that strength, you're no longer giving out of love, but out of obligation or fear of disappointing others. Think of the times you've agreed to help someone even when you had nothing left to give. Maybe you were exhausted. Maybe your schedule was already overflowing, but you didn't want to be seen as unkind. So you said yes. In that moment, your kindness came at the expense of your well-being. It didn't elevate you or the other person, it drained you. And when that happens repeatedly, you start to feel invisible, as though your needs no longer matter. That isn't kindness, that's sacrifice, and sacrifice without balance eventually breeds resentment. The reality is that some people will take as much as you're willing to give. They don't necessarily do it with malice. It's just human nature. If you always say yes, if you never establish boundaries, they assume it's fine. They'll call, they'll ask, they'll lean on you, and you'll deliver. But what starts as kindness soon becomes servitude. The stronger your willingness, the weaker your sense of self becomes, unless you learn to pair your kindness with strength. Strength in kindness also shows up in the ability to hold people accountable. It's easy to confuse kindness with indulgence, letting people get away with behavior that harms you because you don't want to cause conflict. But true kindness isn't about enabling, it's about honesty. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to draw a line, to say, "This is not acceptable." Without strength, you stay silent, and silence teaches others that your boundaries don't exist. There's also a deeper psychological truth here. People respect strength even if they resist it. If your kindness always comes at your expense, people may pity you or take advantage of you, but they rarely respect you. Respect grows when your kindness is backed by firmness, when people understand that your generosity comes from choice, not from weakness. When you can both give and say no, your kindness carries weight. It isn't just something to be consumed, it's something to be valued. Living with kindness and strength together creates balance. It allows you to give without losing yourself, to support others without neglecting your own needs, to be compassionate without being consumed. When you protect your energy and still choose to be kind, that kindness becomes more powerful, more authentic. It's not born of guilt, fear, or habit. It's born of love and self-respect. Without that balance, kindness becomes self-sacrifice, and self-sacrifice, when constant and unreciprocated, slowly erodes your spirit. Never dim your light to make others feel safe. This is a lesson many people struggle with because from a young age we are often taught to make ourselves smaller for the comfort of others. We're told not to shine too brightly, not to be too confident, not to take up too much space. And when we grow into adults, that conditioning lingers. We start believing that if we're too kind, too capable, too joyful, it might intimidate or upset the people around us. So we hold back, we lower our voice, we tone down our gifts, we give less of ourselves than we're capable of giving, all to avoid the discomfort of others. But the truth is, you were never meant to dim your light just so someone else could feel more comfortable in their shadow. Your light is your essence. It's your kindness, your strength, your resilience, your joy, your wisdom. It's the part of you that makes people pause and notice, the part that draws others in. And yes, that light will sometimes make people uncomfortable. They may see you living authentically and feel threatened because they aren't doing the same. They may see your courage and feel insecure about their own fear. They may see your generosity and feel guilty for their selfishness. Their discomfort isn't proof that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that your light is exposing something in them they don't want to face. The temptation in those moments is to shrink, to think, maybe I should tone it down, maybe I should hold back so they won't dislike me. But when you do that, you betray yourself. You deny the world the full expression of who you are. And what's worse, you start training yourself to live in fragments, only showing pieces of your light, depending on who's in the room. Over time, that can leave you feeling invisible, unfulfilled, even resentful. because deep down you know you were meant for more than half steps and muted colors. It's important to remember that your light doesn't just serve you, it serves others too. When you allow yourself to shine fully, you give silent permission for others to do the same. Your authenticity inspires authenticity. Your courage inspires courage. But when you dim yourself to appease someone else's insecurities, you reinforce their fear instead of challenging it. You allow their discomfort to dictate your potential, and the cost of that is far greater than a little tension or judgment. It's the loss of your true self. There will always be people who misinterpret your light. Some will call it arrogance, others will see it as showing off. They'll invent stories to explain why you are the way you are, because they can't understand that your light isn't about them. It's about you choosing to live fully. And while their judgment may sting, it's not your responsibility to dim yourself to meet their expectations. Your responsibility is to honor the gifts you've been given, to use them fully, and to let your presence be as expansive as it was meant to be. Living this way requires courage, because not everyone will celebrate your light. Some will resent it, some will avoid it, and some will actively try to diminish it. But the alternate, if shrinking yourself to please them costs far more. When you deny your own light, you not only rob yourself of joy, you also rob the world of the impact you were meant to make. Every time you choose to shine despite resistance, you reinforce the truth that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's comfort level. Your light is not negotiable, and it should never be dimmed just so others can feel safe in their own shadows. At the end of the day, kindness is not about controlling how people see you. It's about staying true to who you are. Some will welcome your light and others will reject it. Some will be inspired while others will be threatened. You can't change that, and you don't need to. What matters is that you don't allow their reactions to twist your identity or dictate your choices. Kindness without strength becomes self-sacrifice, and dimming your light to soothe someone else's insecurity only keeps you small. You were never meant to carry the weight of other people's unresolved pain. The truth is, people will hate you even when you are kind because your kindness you're giving, your light, they all reveal something in them they may not want to face. That's their journey, not yours. Your journey is to walk with clarity, courage, and boundaries, knowing that kindness and strength can exist together. Let others wrestle with their shadows if they must. You keep showing up, you keep giving from a place of strength, and you keep shining without apology. Because the world doesn't need less of you. It needs the full, unapologetic version of you.